Today we talk about the 6 days of craziness and all the mess that went along with it, and also the OP changes that came from it.
Daydreams become a taboo. I don't want to be afraid.
If you like the episode, consider supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/Archons Corner. You can help us keep our vision of keeping Keyforge alive. Also, you can get all of your Archons Corner merch at Spreadshirt.com. Links in the description below.
Baby, we built this house on memories. Take my picture now, shake it till you see it. And when your fantasies become your legacy, promise me a place in your house of memories.
All right, guys, what's going on? I am the one, the only, the WOOKIE, joined here by the normal cast of misfits. We have the president of AABD, Mr. Sheep. What's going on, Sheep?
I'm here.
We have Z. Hi, Z.
Hey, hey.
We have Drazcor.
Oh, guys.
And we have the littlest of the Ewoks, Ewok Jr.
Hello, Keyforge community.
Buckets to go over today. I mean, we got a lot. This is like a whole page almost of things to just go over today. So I say we just dive right in. I was going to introduce a new segment, but let's just dive right into it. So we got Fire Sale Frenzy. What's going on there, Z?
All right, we closed out the top 8 just yesterday. So let's talk about that. In the end, it ended up being John Beaver over Magnum Miles taking the win in 2 games. Paired up with his bracket, it was Dilly winning over Gorlami, which was also 2 games. So that's going to be a 4th ranked draft deck with Symphony versus the 30th ranked draft deck with Penelope for semifinals. And then the other bucket for the playoffs, we had Throat Wolf on the Sava of Tearswood winning, and I think it was 3 games over Clark the Mechanically Calculating. And then in the last one, it was Laszlo taking out Tamar with Hiram Graff defeating D-House, and I believe that one was 2 games. So in that matchup for that semifinal, we have a 28th drafted deck versus a 3rd drafted deck. So it's cool to see, and all the way to the top 4, we have a top drafted versus a closer to bottom drafted deck as our matchups. Some fun, quick stats, because we got a lot to talk about today, is all 4 of these decks have Star Alliance, and out of those 4 decks, 3 of the decks have Captain Val Jericho. So I think our Fire Sale Frenzy is Captain Val Jericho meta for the win. Like, that is a really impressive conversion rate. I don't know how many were in the field total, but that's pretty fun to see that kind of thing pop up.
I think I saw it was 9 in the field, 7 drafted. 5 of them made top cut, 3 in the finals.
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Pretty good.
We all know, like, that's not exactly how Keyforge works, but that is a hell of a conversion rate for a card that is printed at rare for sure.
So hurry
It's
up
really
and
hard.
buy all your Captain Val Jericho decks on the secondary market.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, let's go. Put it in your alliance.
That's right.
There are 10 double Val Jericho decks for sale on DOK right now.
Double
there you
Val
go.
Jericho gets real crazy real quick if it hits.
Easy to fire them together too. It's
Yeah.
like not a hard leader to execute.
No, not at all.
So we already have our finals scheduled. So I'm going to ask you guys on the spot on air. So Wednesday, October 19th, 8 p.m., we're going to start our doubleheader semifinal. Who's going to be with me? Who's going to join the party? We're streaming.
October what?
19th.
Next
19th?
Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I will try to
Wednesday.
be there.
Naughty.
There's a good chance I could be there.
Sounds like I will be there then.
We might have Orion because he was the one that casted the doubleheader that populated Beaver and Dilly. So it might be all 4 of us just to kind of have a little party on the stream. So if you're available, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday, tune in for the doubleheader to see some classic Keyforge at its best of 3. But hey, we'll have some more of this in the future in real life. So I'm super pumped to see these decks go at it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, good stuff.
All right, so we're gonna go into what who titled this? Was this Z?
Read it.
We're gonna go into the 6 days of bitching. It's kind of like Christmas, only for Keyforge.
On the first day of bitching, like
Dr. Sheepy gave to me.
We're all sorry, Ewok. We really are.
I'm just shaking my head over here, and this is why you hadn't heard me on the 2 Lost casts that you guys had too. So. Some positivity. There is so much to be joyous about. So I will come in and we'll sing joyous for some great things. Like, I don't know, Keyforge celebrations. How can you not be upset about this? We're getting to play Keyforge. But anyway,
we are going to get there because that was
some
my
of
view.
you are going to get to play Keyforge.
The whole time that was my view, Ewok. But first, we do need to address that we had basically 6 days of non-stop toxic feedback everywhere. So
I don't
know
if it's correct.
No, there is ways to provide feedback in constructive
There's
ways.
constructive feedback, and at a certain point, it becomes too much. And
I thought Sheep's feedback was very constructive.
I mean, some of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like in between the toxic parts, but that's the problem.
I have never found Sheep more entertaining than during these last 6 days.
That is probably true.
It was great.
I was correct.
No one is saying that you were definitively right or wrong here, Sheep. I am saying over the last 6 days, a lot of people showed their immaturity to astounding degrees. And you may or may not have been one of them.
So obviously, 6 days ago, we did do, if you were in the live show, you heard Sheep, Drazcor, and Z talk about the new tournament formats that were released, right? And basically what was released was Archon, which was more or less Triad with some like really crazy rules of exhausted decks and non-exhausted decks, and then when it wins it's exhausted, so on and so forth. It's neither here nor there because it's been changed. Sealed became buy 2 decks, mish them together. Well, not mish them, but you could change the houses in them to make one deck. And then they came out with Alliance, which, I mean,
everyone loved.
I loved it. I loved it. In fact, it was my idea. I'm still looking for which episode I had brought this up to you. And all 4 members, or no, Drazcor wasn't with us at that time. All 3 members went, and we kind of just all moved on. But regardless of that, that was the third one, which is basically you take a house.
We had it right then, and we have it right now.
What do you mean, Alliance?
Back it up, move it on.
All right. Either way, that was Alliance. Okay. So Sheep took mass offense to this, almost as if his character had been personally attacked. And now we have the president of the AABD. He told me what it means, but I have now forgotten. What does it stand for?
You don't need to know.
Don't need to know. It
doesn't matter. It's worthless.
It's worthless now, according to Z.
Our mission statement has changed. You'll have to come find us.
Is there a website we can go?
No, we're too underground for that.
Too underground? Because I was thinking about making T-shirts in the AARP logo, but it said AABD.
Yes, I'm an old man, and I like the things I like. What's wrong with that?
I like what I like, and they don't need to change.
Change is difficult for many
individuals. We're going to get on to Gigi's response, because that's where the positivity starts to come back. But we do need to talk about, in these 6 days of bitching, we saw a petition against constructive Keyforge.
Had nothing to do with that.
I know. we saw an alliance against broken decks.
Oh, that's what it is.
I had something to do with that.
We had several calls to actions for pledges to be canceled with a full refund. That was in multiple places that you could go find.
I saw that.
And we had intentional claims of bait and switch practices by a traded company. No, not traded, but by a corporation, which I also saw in multiple places. Like,
I'm
when
guilty of that one too.
when I say there is a difference between loud, moving feedback and toxic feedback, like all of the objectives, I think, and this is the part that somewhat makes me sad, could have been accomplished without such negative ways to produce these messages. We won't ever know whether a more constructive vein would have yielded the same result or a result. But I do hope one could have, and we all could have been much more prouder about the way things were handled over these 6 days.
I thought I handled myself very nicely.
I heard some of it because I was at a band competition when y'all were talking, and I appreciate someone being there to support.
Weird, it was me that was the positive.
Some
That's all
kind
I'm
of logical reason.
Well, Wookie, I will say that you keep rising to the occasion to show this, but what I saw from our individual group with just the 5 of us was pretty sickening, to be 100% honest. And I think Z is spot on. Like, we need to act as members of the community, and sometimes it's a little bit better to go ahead and pause, think through some things, and then give it a little bit of time. We can provide constructive feedback, but it can really actually impact, because our goal is to improve communication, but it's also to draw in new players.
Sure.
So how we go about that as we go forward, let's use it as a learning tool.
You
and
can't
again, this was
draw
here.
new players at the cost of all of the old players. Like I'm like,
but you can hear
blind positive support is not always appropriate.
This is not blind positive support, but
that is what you guys are calling for.
No,
that is not what I was calling for the entire time. There was an event that was designed literally to tailor to you, and it's now gone.
That was not tailored to me.
Or it is designed to the team that you are a part of.
This is true. That is true, but that doesn't mean it's good for Keyforge.
And yeah, like I do agree. Like we actually talked about the stuff off air real recently. Like that is a thing. So we're going to talk about that too. One of the things that like I am, in spite of the negative thing, like what was just a shame in general for our community to not recognize, like if it was talked about, it was not talked about in a space that got enough hype. There was literally no recognition anywhere that I looked of the fact that we will, like a large group of people in person will get to play Winds of Exchange less than 30 days from now, which if you go back 9 days ago, no one even thought was remotely possible. We were all hoping that January stuck as a real date to play WoW, and no one mentioned that anywhere, like hardly ever during these 6 days.
It is pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome.
Like that is an amazing feat. So like when we first got told about the game found even being a thing, we got a whole bunch of, we're diligently working on the code. We're trying to make the other algorithm work. I said this on the cast. I thought the whole time that was like an under promise, over deliver scenario. But in my mind, that was like me thinking that they would be able to sell product for the Christmas event, like the holiday season. Like in no level of optimism did I ever have that we'd be able to play WoW early November. Like that is way above anything that they had released as being a possibility remotely. And no one talked about that at all for 6 days. Because they were so salty.
Yep.
I mean, I have some very strong opinion on that apparently nobody wants to hear on this cast anymore.
So I think that what needs to be kept in mind is that there are channels to go ahead and communicate. And so we do have a voice here. The community does look to us, but there's also GG has been very good about listening and responding. And I will say once again, they listen to the community. They are active in our Facebook group, in Discords. And I appreciate that they heard kind of the outcry that was there, and they have responded pretty quickly once again. It is not going to be perfect, but again, we had the warning ahead of time. how we present ourselves, though, does matter to others.
Do you think that
No.
if we didn't, okay, so if it wasn't what it was, and let's just say we go about this, and everyone goes about it in a more professional manner, do we get the same results?
That's what I don't think
It's hard to know.
We
I mean,
won't
it is
know
tough to know, but I don't know
like
if you do.
I would hope we would, because like the whole time they have been responsive. They literally changed the pledges as we talked about it. And again, there's no way to know whether we have any true credit for anything, because we don't for sure know anyone listens to us. That matters ever. All of our listeners
And all
matter
of my
to
ranting
us.
never got
you.
released anyways.
Yeah, that's true. That part's true. But I'm talking about the
Well,
pledge
it
thing
was
back in the-
live, and you did have like 15 people in here, so.
Yeah,
It was the
did have a
most
lot of
listened
people.
to live experience we've ever had.
It's the first cast I've ever done where I can sit there. It's like, oh, at least I do know that these 15 people are listening to what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, I mean, we do this at 8:30 on Thursday night, which is a strange time to release anything. So,
But but still, going back to their responsiveness, the entire time CTP has been answering emails. We've seen that from the very beginning. They've been active on the GameFound FAQ, updating it in almost real time, day to day. The pledges themselves changed in real time, and as soon as they stopped changing them, they told us they were going to stop changing them, which is like night and day from. I mean, I haven't experienced that many gaming companies, but I did experience FFG for 2 years, and that was horrible. So was
typically you don't, and I've been a part of a lot of different CCG communities just over the years playing yada yada. I will tell you that the reason I'm skeptical of a change without the drastic backlash that they did receive, and whether we want to say was childish or not, the fact of the matter is you typically don't see change in a CCG without something as to what just happened here. You just don't. It doesn't happen. It did happen, and they changed it.
But doesn't typically most CCGs are buried behind a lot of corporate structures? Like, no. I don't know of any of them that.
I mean, back in the day.
I mean, the big three, maybe.
The big three now for sure. Now that Wizards is owned by Hasbro, but back in the day, you got to remember Wizards was a tiny company too. And they, a lot of changes didn't happen until the community got really upset. A lot, and you got to remember a lot of these CCG companies they're not big. They're just not. So it just is what it is. I mean, it a lot of people were upset.
Yeah,
and it's understandable.
It's not right. It's not knowable. So I did well. I tried. I don't know. You guys can tell me how well I did. I think I did better in the first cast than maybe the second cast to try to keep it together and try to be reasonable and constructive. With my feedback, I did write a very
strongly worded,
pretty
letter.
long. I wrote a long letter. And it was I rewrote that thing 5 or 6 times or something, and laid out my concerns. I used an analogy at Keyforge as a vegetarian restaurant that decided to start serving meat, and was that a good idea for that restaurant, right? And tried not to put it forward as definitively bad. It's just what type of who are you trying to attract to your restaurant, and are you going to keep the vegetarians coming, right? That sort of thing. So, I don't know if that sort of stuff was more effective, less effective than the rage approach.
Usually,
the only thing I do have
voice is heard, right? That's just how it happens.
So the one thing I do have that gives me a little bit of hope is I did get the boilerplate response, except it was modified a little bit and referenced my analogy.
At least they read it. So.
Yeah, they read it.
It wasn't just a copy paste.
They probably passed that around the office.
Yeah, they could have.
Look at this eloquent young fellow talking about vegetarian restaurants.
Yeah, yes. Well, my daughter recently decided, my older daughter recently decided she was a vegetarian, so it's like on my mind.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That
doesn't fly down here.
There's
in
an old
Texas,
saying that the squeaky
Yeah.
wheel gets the grease, right? And it's true. Just
We did
is.
see that. It is. The other thing I've got here as far as our 6 days segment is there was no recognition for the fact that we get a live destination event this year. We talk about wanting these things all the time on this cast,
Yeah.
to the point where we put one on ourselves because we were tired of complaining about not having one.
Now, hold on.
Is this not exactly to the reason that I went off the rails? Like, I was not the only person. We all agree this, like, off the rails here. And it's because there is no point of Destination Keyforge if it's a bunch of formats we don't want to play. Like, that's the thing. Like, WoW doesn't matter to me personally if there's no formats and games I want to go play in, right? More stuff doesn't matter if there isn't the things you want to do with it. And that's why there was that visceral reaction and the other thing was missed, because they're like, why we came to Keyforge isn't here now.
I hear you, but did you really not want to play in the Triad?
If that was all there was going to be, there wasn't going to be a game long enough to
That's
matter.
not what I asked.
That's exactly what I'm telling you. That's what my focus was.
But, like, did you not want to play in the Triad?
Of the two, I wanted to play in the Triad over the Alliance for certain.
Okay. Like, but your whole basis was, like, if there aren't things you'd want to play there. But, like, you were going to go, and you did want to play in the Triad. Like, that's... I mean, we'll talk about the Triad here in a minute as far as the changes, because I do think the change is better for the game. Does it affect me in a slightly negative way as far as my personal, like, ability to win events? Sure. But we all know I don't win anything anyway. So that doesn't really matter.
You will promptly go 4-2 missing top cut.
I will no, like my experience in a lot of these things is I will go undefeated on day one and then I will lose immediately in the top cut. Right before any pricing that matters. Like, that is probably what will happen. And
that's about par for the course.
Yeah, like, I will continue to have the best possible record and not do anything that matters.
We should have an interview about how you feel about that. I got a couch somewhere.
Yes,
like just Z laying down. Like, how does it feel to be number one but have won nothing?
Like I don't even know what that is in, like, sports. It's like Peyton Manning before he won the one.
It's Dan Marino.
There you go.
Dan Marino.
Here we go. Yeah, like, this is my stake in Keyforge. Like, and I'm right there with Dave. Like, Dave's with me. Like, we get all the way to where we need to be and just don't win anything. Like, it's a thing. So
Places out.
Yep. Anyway, but I help other people win whatever they need to win. Like, that's my role. I'm coach. But yeah. Anyway, there's a live event this year that will probably be close to 100 people from the numbers we're seeing, which we'll continue to talk about, which will probably max out. So if the max really is 100 whatever, I think we'll see that. Well, we don't know.
Did they release a max? Because they're like,
we don't know that number.
What?
Yeah, that's all we hear. Is that, like, I think at one point we mentioned, like, it said something to do with maybe halfway there or something like that, and it wasn't that high. So we'll talk about that soon. So I'm super pumped that there is an event this year. Again, no one was talking about how great that was. They were busy listening to sheep.
So it was on point.
So yes, and then you have another big thing, which I did mention on the second cast, but
we talked about this. Like, people talk about even people replying to other people's thought would always start with, "There's a giant yellow border."
There's a giant yellow box. Yep.
Like, it's like everyone that was complaining the most and the hardest just didn't read that at all.
And preliminary was in bold. Like, very bold.
So this giant yellow box that you guys are referring to, keyforging.com, right above the tournament format and rules.
Before you read anything.
So you guys are saying everything you've ever experienced in life, when they say these are preliminary, it's always changed? Like, I have played plenty of beta video games where then they just take the beta off after a few months.
I was just gonna say, typically the beta is the full release game, but this is not a video game.
That is true in a lot of places and things. Like, yes, it could change. It also could not change.
Yeah,
but you're like looking at that in a bubble that isn't the bubble that you're in. Like we just talked about how responsive GG has been this entire time and process. They literally have reacted to everything we've done through the game found and the FAQs, stuff that people have been sending them. Why would you assume that would not be a real thing when the only thing
I don't know where you think they responded in the game found to something.
They changed the pledge to added
index where you could just get dex.
Okay, so they added an ability for you to give them some more money. Like, okay.
I mean, that's what this all is about, right?
Like, you say this now, but this was literally the thing you were campaigning the most about the pledge. If you go back and listen to yourself on the cast.
That preliminary does not mean guaranteed change. I still firmly believe in that.
So I just had reason to believe the opposite could be true here and chose not to.
So I do think that. So I think a couple different things, right? I think they made an attempt with the banner, but I do agree with Sheep's comments from the previous cast that the way the whole thing was written wasn't overall written in a way that really led to leaning into the, hey, we're really testing stuff. And I reacted that, hey, this is likely going to be what it is. And they'll listen and they'll hear stuff because they have, like, I expected them to respond to feedback, but this was definitely a positioning, the way that I and many people read it, as to like, hey, this is where we want to go with this as a game. Which was stronger, I think, than the hey, there's some formats we want to test.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely, whenever you do something in written form, it's tough to convey. I mean, there's definitely a better way of going about it. Sure.
In both casts, I specifically said the way the message is delivered is super important, and this one was delivered in a manner to me that said, like, we're willing to just 180. See you later, guys. I'm going, what? Whoa.
And in that original cast that is gone now, I did agree with you there. Like,
I'm still trying to fix it. It'll probably
should have been communicated. It should have communicated. Like what? Like, so this is a perfect segue into the new GG response, which we are not going to read because it is very, very long. Lengthy. That would be a show just reading that. Yeah. But go read the GG response. Hopefully we can link that wherever we put, like, wherever you can view the podcast. Like, find the link, go to the GG response. Yep. It's worth reading. This is where I think they made up for a lot of that initial communication, because it was communicated in a rough way. Had, say, 2/3 of the GG response that we got been a part of the initial release, I think their actual initial response would have been very, very different. I don't know if that means we'd still be playing those original 3 or whatever, but I think they would have gotten a different communal response.
I often tell all the new pawnbrokers and the pawnbrokers that work for me right now, any message delivered, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. Right? You can tell someone in a very nice fashion that it's not something that we're interested in and we're going to pass on it today. Or I can tell you you have a heap of junk here. No thanks. Right? So it is very important. But let's get into GG's response. Just a couple brief notes here. They had kind of done some bullet points on existing, new, and lapsed players. Lapsed player, I don't know what that means, but they did put in a ratio saying that the lapsed players was about a 30-to-1 ratio, which that's a really big ratio. Lapsed players meaning they had left the game and came back. Correct? Is that how that's how I read the article?
Well, not
or they had
come
left
back.
the game completely.
They're gone.
So they started playing the game. They liked the game, but at some point they left, whether that was after Coda, whether that was after AOA. At some point, they have lapsed from playing the game. They are no longer playing presently, but they could still potentially be interested in playing Keyforge.
Mm-hmm.
And people were questioning the data. From what I can gather, this is purely speculation and best guess. I doubt it's anyone that just made a Master Vault account because that's skewed. They would, if I were doing this, if I were the person looking at the data, I would have taken the number of unique IDs that registered for at least one chain bound and compared that with the ones that had choose a date and set that date as okay, you can assume that from here to here, if they registered a game in that type of scenario, any kind of official thing through Master Vault, they were a retained player. That is my best guess of how they initiated this ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Which means they had enough data to say, look, we are losing most of the player base that does at least come in for one kind of official event somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
See, I actually struggled with that data piece. And I'll say, when you release a game, there's a lot of hype. As people get further and further along, that hype goes ahead and dies out. And then we ran into a pandemic. So your time period to be able to grab information is very scattered. I cannot go ahead and say that the amount of stores running Keyforge events right now is the same that it was before pandemic. We can't go ahead and do that.
That's why I specified the window, though. There are only 5 people that work on our game right now, and from all that I can gather, these are 5 relatively intelligent people from the data that I have about them. If I'm one of them, my start and stop points would include, my stop point would probably be to, somewhere in January, December, back when we were talking about Vault Warrior, that window as the stop point, and then collect data there. Because it doesn't matter if you collect data from start and stop points anytime after that. Because you want to assume it's, in this world where, normal world stuff are happening indefinitely, you need data in a window that exists like that.
I mean, that the number registering decks back then and the number actively registering decks in the last 3 months is a pretty good indicator if people are still interested in Keyforge, and that's definitely a metric I would be looking at.
Yeah, but that wouldn't give them this lapse ratio. That's just people buying decks. That is
well, that's a lot to do with each other.
They are related, but I think when they're looking for players in the community, playing the game, I think it has to be more. I don't think
there is any there's no meaningful data for the last 2 years.
That's why I said stop where Worlds Collide December, and then that's it. That's.
But how many? How many accounts do you think were actually? I doubt there were very many accounts created post-pandemic through.
We talked to a few, kind of.
We know a few, but I think if you look at those numbers are going to be small. They're not going to be very big.
Well, they didn't say anything about new players because new players isn't a thing in Keyforge in the last 2 years. But the number of players who have registered a deck or earned an Amber Shard is not that hard to figure out, probably.
Yeah, that would be another one. They would have that ID in there. For sure.
I guess for me, I would put it in as another question to be able to ask someone from GG
how they determine this ratio.
Correct. How did you determine it? Because I'm interested. I'm curious. I don't see it as jumping out to me right away. But to be honest, we're competing with other games. Fab, to be honest, has even gone further down. But when you had real live events, when we weren't putting on events, that had a huge impact on the community. When we were through a pandemic, that had a huge impact on the community. And as games go ahead and progress, any card game, you're going to progressively lose players from that initial hype. And there was a lot of initial hype that surrounded Keyforge. It was unique. It was something that was completely different, but it doesn't resonate with everyone. And talking with just a random person at my work who's in IT, they do a podcast for another game system. They played it early on. Why did they get out? Their reasoning was, hey, it wasn't necessarily our type of game. We saw that a lot of decks were just not competitive and it wasn't fun for them. That's what they had told me. And while I can have this hype and this excitement, you got to be able to hear that and go, okay, this type of game being unique, being a set versus constructed format, that was a restriction for some individuals. But games go ahead and jump out. Right now, there are so many board games, so many card games that are coming out. Everything is vying for your attention. If there isn't anything that's hot and new that's being produced right now or within a given period of time, people move on very quickly. So,
and we
Yeah, I
are in
was
another card
just
game.
wondering-
boom right now. You have to remember that. Right now, card games are hot. I mean, I'm sure everyone can remember late 90s, early 2000s. Everything had a card game. Nightmare Before Christmas had a card game. Survivor.
I still got some Tomb Raider and Wing Commander cards in
There
my
you go.
basement.
I mean that everything had a card game. And then most of them died. Card games kind of went to the back burner, and then you had like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic, and that was really it. Now we're getting to that point again where everything is getting a card game again, right? So, I mean, Disney is making a TCG, or is either a TCG or a CCG. Disney sees the money in it.
I wonder if these companies really think their games have longevity or if they're comfortable with a 2-year cash grab, because like Transformers was a 2-year thing.
Wow. FFG. Wasn't that FFG?
No, FFG generally went more than 2 years. They went like 4 to 5. No.
I thought they did. I'm gonna find out.
Facts, not our strong suit.
I'm looking it up right now.
Apparently, neither is Googling. So,
Wizards of the Coast made
yeah,
it.
that's what.
Wow, that's a surprise. I'm actually kind of shocked by that one. I thought that was FFG for some reason. I'm not 100%.
Because you assume everything that fails is FFG.
No, I just thought that was FFG. Like that's just what I thought. That's was my assumption. I don't know why I assumed that. I'm sure I heard it.
Because it
somewhere.
failed.
No, because most 99.9% of card games fail. You have to remember that. Of all the card games that have been out there, 3 have really survived. And that's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, even at one point, Pokemon died. And that was when they took the licensing back. But, like, really, you've had Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Those are the only games that have survived over these, 20 years or so. Most card games die. You all been gamers. I'm sure you've seen card games come and go out of your game store. Most of them die.
Loca Carl point out some random thing from South America that has been around since like 90. I have no idea what it is, but there is some game that doesn't get printed in English that's been around since the 90s.
Well,
so, you need to count that because somebody's making money.
Sure. But my point being is that most card games, if you're getting into a new card game, it doesn't survive either the IP. So, and again, I've referenced this before. Some guy did a great, awesome. It was like the 7 Deadly Sins of TCGs. If I can find it, I'll put it in the Discord somewhere.
All right.
But
we're getting off track
he
here.
lists it all.
I just want to know what a good ratio is. Like, if 30 to 1's not desirable, what is a desirable ratio? Like, I don't know.
I mean, obviously the goal is 1-to-1, but
but that's not realistic, right?
That's not realistic at all.
No.
That's like saying every person that comes into my store, I'm going to get them signed up for my new credit card. That's not going to happen. That's not real. That's not a realistic goal.
Yeah, get good.
Get good.
Okay, so they talked about in their response the 3 reasons for people leaving, right? And so, do we need to go over that to talk about that? But mainly, like, our question here is: should GG go after those 3 reasons? Like, should they focus? Like, how hard should they focus on those 3 reasons?
Well, and which
Ewok looking this up? Come on, Ewok bot.
So I have it right here. So I threw this in here because I think you respond to each of these 3 questions or reasons rather, in different ways as a company, right? You apply different strategies. And so I was sort of pondering which of these is most interesting or most important for them to go after. So the first is they got a bad deck and they looked up its score, right? So they went to stats basically and said, oh, actually my deck stinks, or I played one deck and they lost, right? So that's the first reason. Second reason is, hey, you get a big collection and then you don't have a reason to go back to that existing collection, and eventually you lose interest in pulling in new decks. And then the third was this lack of agency in making meaningful decisions regarding their deck. So those are the three reasons they put forward.
My question that isn't answered there is, did they ask the people who are still there, what are the reasons that keep you here?
Right.
Because I think they might be surprised with how many people answer with almost exactly the opposite of that. Well, outside of the I got a crappy deck part. Even some people don't mind that much.
But I mean, I think that is a big part of it, though. Like, because we're not actually talking, like, they are not talking about all of us that stayed in the game. They're talking about the 29 to 1 of us that stayed.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that audience is a very different answer. Because, like, I play Keyforge because I think the game itself, in its core structure, is fun to play. There are other games that are fun to play too. I'm not going to say they're not. But the IP behind it, the fact that every deck is unique, whether it sucks or not, and it will only be in that iteration. There's always that hunt for something new and unique. Like I don't have as many reps as most of you on this cast, and especially not most of my team on the decks that I own. I think one of you has played one of my best decks more than me. Because like I get bored with that deck and I want to play something else. I'll go test something else. I'll run reps for other people. And Keyforge gives me the opportunity to constantly do that without just going and buying a set of cards. And that does not exist in any other game. Admittedly, I've not looked at SoulForge. I've not even taken a look at it. But because that goes back to my first point, as I love playing the game, and that's me. That's why I stay in this game. Clearly, that's not the 29 to 1 people that left the game. And for a lot of those people, getting that one deck, going to the sealed event, getting crushed, getting another deck, going to some Archon decks, getting super crushed, probably is among the top reasons they did not stay in this game.
I mean, I definitely can see the reasoning of, hey, like, yeah, you get crushed, and then you're like, well, I'll just change. Oh, wait, I can't change anything.
Nope, I gotta buy another deck.
Right.
So
this one sucks too.
So, in the FFG land, what Ghost Galaxy said there is they leaned into trying to make things balanced, so it was less likely that I would open something that banged so much harder than what you opened. And it sounds like in this article they're more interested in variants and the original. The original Garfield intention, which means they are going to have to provide some sort of balancing mechanic potentially to deal with even higher variants in decks.
And that we have yet to see. Like
more busted cards. Oh, sorry.
Let's go. Like I y'all know my vote for that.
That's my inside coming out. More busted cards. Unnerf bait and oh, I'm sorry.
Like
hold on.
I know this isn't like in this topic and it's not related. Like my answer to this, as far as like whether they should be going after this, is that we have a case study in what is drawing current active like players in this type of community to games, and that is Fab. While it is like cutting off a little bit, mainly because like the game itself is not nearly as good as our game, we need to get players in. And like I was talking to some folks, and a couple times, like I wrote the 4 main things that like I played Fab for 6 months. And one of the among these 4 reasons, I was in it for some of these reasons. And while I was there, like this is all the community talked about. Everyone I talked about, these are the reasons among why they played the game. Fab's model for getting people to play a game from scratch is offer money pricing and post that you're offering tons of money at as many places as you can. And whether you get them there for the right reasons or not, you'll get players there. And the next thing was they had very unique, consistent pricing support at all of their levels. Every single place you could go to play Fab, you got some kind of prize for winning that event that was fairly valuable in some kind of way, whether that's like a collector's type thing, whether that's a resellable thing that is also collector's, or whether it just looked really cool artistically. That was there at every way you could play it. And like the third and biggest thing we talk about.
Decks.
Yeah, and the third biggest thing we talk about is like competitive OP support. Like Fab has stuff all the time. They have seasons like that are different competitive seasons. There's like at the what we would consider a prime level. There's store level stuff. There's vault level stuff. Like going on constantly, all the way around the 12 months. There is always something to prep for. There's always something to look forward to. And then the fourth one, Wookie would probably appreciate way more than me because I literally don't care about it. Is that they did implement foils and they did it in a really unique way. I don't know if that's like copyrighted for them or whatever, but people went freaking nuts over the cold foils and the gold foils and all this other crap they did with foils that I couldn't care less about.
Well, you already talked about it. Foils is just another collectability / price. It's a collectability thing.
But I literally met in my 6 months people that played the game because of how cool these foil cards were.
I highly doubt that's the only reason. I would tell you it was more a monetary
or at least
thing
they were
the cold
coming to
foils
the
were worth
event
money.
for them.
Right, because cold foils are worth big
because
bucks.
people wanted them.
Right.
Yes,
Like,
that's the
That's
point.
why they're worth money.
Well,
But so what I'm saying though is those are 4 reasons why this game blew up in attendance. So when you go to I went to a Fab event. That's all that was there. That like there was nothing else. It was not a con. There were 400 people playing in events actively on the floor that day. That has never happened for our game in the United States or anywhere.
World of Warcraft game had 200 to 300 people, I think, showing up for their Dark Moon fairs. And again, you got really valuable stuff that went into the World of Warcraft game.
but we've already talked about how difficult it is to put a monetary value on anything Keyforge. Because there's no one piece that you can be like, this card is worth X amount of dollars because that's what the market's demanding for it.
You know what's worth $1,000? $1,000.
Yes. That's why number 1 on my list, because that was basically in the order of interest to me personally, right? Like money is up there. Like I wouldn't necessarily I love Keyforge so much, it's not like a big deal for me to go if there's money or not, because again, I'm not going to win it anyway. But like that is a big thing to get players in the doors, and then once they start playing our game, then it's like get a little taste in your hook type thing. We as a community need a reason for people to come play our game. So
you have to also be careful with that. All I need to do is point out, I forget what game that was. Something Legends. I'm drawing a blank on it. And their first thing was $100,000 Pro
Royals?
Tour. No, it was something Legends. It was another game that's now defunct. It came out right after Keyforge, and their big thing was $100,000 the big national tournament at the end of the year is going to be for $100,000 first place prize. That game's now defunct because it could have been due to the pandemic, but the prize money bankrupt the company.
I mean, yes, don't be stupid about it.
You have to be smart about it.
I agree with that too. I don't think LSS is going bankrupt, right?
You don't know. I mean, they could be struggling.
They could be.
So this is a place where I understand the company is going to have a hard time with it, especially compared to players potentially. But one of the things that has been often enjoyed about Keyforge is at the Vault Tour level, the general friendliness of the event and approachability has always been really high. Part of that being because it didn't necessarily draw people who were just there for the prizes because, the Vault Tour prizes were kind of lame.
Not real.
They were really lame, right?
Yeah.
And moving towards cash can potentially go there. Now, we did cash at live, and it was not an issue at all. But we were also at that point on an extremely dedicated player base, right? And we weren't drawing. Nobody came to live going I'm coming there to win a cash prize.
Well, we were also mid-pandemic, too, don't forget.
Yes.
The vaccine had just become okay, you guys can all leave your house now. Just make sure you got your 2 jabs.
So, yeah. So if is that the right direction for this game overall? Now, I've never been to a Fab event, so I don't know how jolly friendly they are compared to going to a Keyforge event.
I would say it was fairly comparable, but
You've been to I would say very different.
You're also
I went to
easy to get along with.
You ever been to a pro?
sheep.
You ever been to a pro tour sheep?
Thank you.
Yeah, you ever been to a pro tour sheep?
Hell no.
No.
But
You ever
I
been around-
have been.
You ever been around
to
Magic
two
players?
callings.
Yes, they even store level, the guys who think they're good are like terrible. I told that story. I went and played in the Forgotten Realms pre-release thing because I like Magic enough and I like D&D and I had nothing going on. I was like, I'll go check this out. And when I started and I was on the bottom half of the tables and I got somebody, like is okay, but then I got to the winning half of the room and I was like, okay, I can leave because these people are no good. And I laughed. I got to the winning half of the room and then I lost my first game and the people I had to play once I got to that half, I was like, I don't really need to play this anymore.
Right.
I don't want to play with those people, so I'm going to leave. And
I found
did.
that to be very similar in Fab. Very similar.
Did you
The
go to
people
a
who-
calling?
No, I never went to a calling, but I went to enough store level events.
Well, then
That it
your
was
local
very
stores
similar.
is those people you're talking about.
Well,
I had
mean,
no issue at either calling I went to, and I took
And
a relatively new player with me, and he also had no overtly negative.
Well,
experience.
having no overtly negative issue is a little different. Like the
I think that's
demeanor
what
is
we're
very
talking
Magic-esque.
about, right?
I think it's still very Magic-esque. I don't think you associated with those people because again, you are very oddly easy to get along with, so your demeanor doesn't point towards that.
Look here, you mother.
And
Whoa.
and I'm sure you were moderate. You could handle yourself in Fab, right? Like,
And I
I'm sure you were
also
in the winning half.
was
So.
oddly running into people that kind of knew who I was as well. So, that is the thing.
Right. So
I guess I'm never getting rid of that thing.
no. So you can't judge your experience to the same. You kind of it's very high schooly. It gets a little clicky. It does.
I don't know. I did not have that experience. So either way, though,
I don't
think
know.
those are four things that we know because
Right.
we have very recent proof that it will get people to the seat. And I think the people that stay are going to be mostly the good ones
But
because I think at some point we'll edge those other ones out.
Will it when the cash players, let's just call them cash players, like say they implement cash playing and alliance and the awful direction I fear alliance could go, even with some bans and restrictions and stuff, means it's still going to be very hard to join the game and be like, I would like to play Keyforge at a high level and win these cash prizes. So I will buy these cards that equal a deck that should give me a good chance, because the way the game is generated may not be available. Right? Especially if it's like my opinion on, really high Archon decks. Like if you really want to compete, if I want to beat Yuzi, like I'm not doing it for $500. Right?
Hope
And
not.
not in like a, like maybe there's a chance because this is Keyforge, so there's always a chance, right? But like,
Yes.
if I spent $500 and we played a best out of 10, or best out of 9, or whatever it is, I don't expect to win, right? Like if you get it a best out of enough, like I think I got to spend lots of money, and people who want to win money are willing to spend money, but they have to be able to spend money on stuff
That is for sale.
wins. And it's for sale, and Keyforge is not naturally
But that's where I'm
made
saying
for that.
the game itself has to be good enough to say. In the end, we just need these four things to get people in the seat to play the game long enough. And in the end, if our game can't attract them to stay, well, then it's not good enough. Right? That's what the end story is.
That's
like
a thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we need to know the most. But mostly, we need to get people to invest long enough to give it that 30-day hard try. And in the end, if we can't keep them, maybe we don't deserve to. Right?
Yeah, and that is a bit where my vegetarian restaurant analogy was going, right? So it's a niche in some ways. Like there's plenty of vegetarians out there, right? But it's not I don't think a vegetarian restaurant will ever be the most popular restaurant in the world, but you can have an extremely popular vegetarian restaurant that does very well as a company, and that's a strategy, right? You don't have to be the best restaurant, right? But you have to have your place. So,
but you have to be the best at what you do.
You have a seat at the table.
So, what is it that we do, right? So that was the core of my concern. Like, I used to know how to describe this game in one sentence to like hopefully attract new people. I don't know what that one sentence is anymore. So actually, I'm spoiling a question I want to ask when we get somebody on this cast to interview them. So like, how do we describe this game now? I don't know.
Yeah, that is.
It's a unique card game.
But
what does that mean?
It unique.
Yeah.
Right, like.
All right, let's go into the disinformants. All right, so and I think it's unique pod game. Zach's saying, I don't know.
Yep,
sounds weird.
That would work.
We did get some new changes to the. Well, okay, so we got new changes to new formats. So, we now have sealed, which is one deck. Now, I'm
so it's
guessing
actually called Archon Sealed.
I'm sorry, it is called Arc because there's now Archon. It's kind of split into two, Archon and Alliance. Archon Sealed, which is you are going to get one sealed Keyforge deck, open it, and you will play.
Wait, how many?
One. Uno.
I think you must be reading something wrong.
I unfortunately am not.
Yeah.
I don't like the change to just one deck. I do like the get 3, pick 1. It does lead me to believe my statistics. It's giving me some choice, I guess, is the only way to say
I believe it's called agency. Like, they like that word. Agency?
They
agency.
do like that word, and then, like, it's either agency in this game, and I'm being a little facetious and a jerk, but agency in this game is now nothing. You get one, deal with it. Or you have to deck build if you want agency. Like, you can't have agency in working with a set of decks. You can't have agency with valuing your deck versus the other guy's deck. Those aren't agencies anymore. It's either deck construction or it doesn't exist.
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true, Dan. I just think they changed it
either. But anyway, when I saw Archon Sealed, like, my brain assumed this was 3 decks pick 1 or 2 decks pick 1 because, like, the price point's higher. I had to read this thing like 5 times before I would mentally accept that there is an official play format where you're going to get handed one single deck and said, good luck to.
Good luck. And you get the pat on the butt and go get him, Tiger.
So what I saw here, Z, is I think that they're really struggling with kind of the lower tiers, kind of your in-store or championship, going ahead and looking at primes versus vault tours. And we're all used to vault tours. I think that it needs to be 3 at that higher level, but they have not placed it as a distinction. These, again, the big yellow, the tournament formats presented below are currently in preliminary. But I think what they're looking at is they're struggling with that concept that this needs to be store level. Yes, we want one deck there. I'm not going to go ahead and buy 3.
They've made that clear in multiple occasions where these are supposed to be the stuff that's going to happen at the Ghost Galaxy organized bigger level play, and like they don't really care what you do at the store. Do what you want.
And I can't disagree with that.
People were unhappy with there only being constructed sealed, and there was a lot of people like, hey, like single sealed is important. And I think that was misinterpreted as like you need to put single sealed in this, because single sealed, like as Z is saying, traveling to play a single sealed. I don't know if you said a lot about this off air. Have you said it on air?
No, we haven't talked about this on air. Like, I would never. Like, I was one of the people in the U.S. that traveled to like everything until I just straight up boycotted AOA.
And
like
Germany.
Oh, and I even went to Germany to play there too, to make up for not playing AOA later. I just knew that was going to happen. But like, I cannot afford to spend $600-700 to go to a destination event where this is the main event. like I would obviously play it if it was like the Friday night event, like they were gonna have at the celebration, just because I'm already gonna be there for the main the following day. But like, this is a lot of an investment to have to show up to a destination event to get one single
To
deck.
basically roll the dice.
Yes.
Like it's always rolling the dice, but
Right.
it just feels better to roll 3 times.
Do you think this was a price point thing? That was kind of the question that popped into
Yeah.
my head when I saw
Well,
it.
we
as a
already
single.
have the other version where you're getting 2 decks there. So like
Right.
so we already know that 2 decks they're okay with. So like even at 2 decks, I would have said I'd be understanding of that. Just trying to keep the price down, point down for like the locals that go to destination events. I would still I respectfully suggest that GG moves this back to 2 or 3 decks, just to give a little bit more agency, as that is what they are seeking from the community.
And I will
moving
second that.
forward.
I mean, that's what needed. That's what.
And I would like to demand, because I don't like requesting.
I
Even
suspect
Even
this
that as a
was
statement is better than before.
So single deck sealed, I think is very important to this game due to price point, and a single deck sealed event. And I know even Z, you guys never ran this at your stores, but most that I went to did. Single deck sealed for 3 or maybe 4 rounds was not a big deal, right? Like single deck sealed for
2
unique
days.
prize and 6 rounds of double or bunch of double.
It's double elimination now. Like it's not like a
everything's
top
double.
cut.
Yeah,
like everything's double. So
you do only have to play that bad deck twice.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
make tournaments much faster.
But picture that you went ahead and flew out.
Oh
you
no,
spent
it's terrible.
And then you pull one bad deck. Goodness, I pulled 3 Worlds Collide Brobnar for the opening in Indy, and I felt horrible. I can only imagine if I had shown up and you only got 1 shot at it. And so you spend all this on the hotel for food, for travel, and you get 1 shot. Yeah, you can play side pods, but it's not the same. I do think that
second Amber, no side pods. And second Amber is currently just continuing to play what you were playing
until you're eliminated.
Prizes in a different pool.
Correct. But I guess what I was saying is I was in reference to previous Vault Tour where you would basically drop out. You'd see a lot of those people. You're getting another opportunity. But you're 100% right. Here, second Amber, awesome. I love the prizes. But you're playing that same bad deck or like you're really limited.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
There might be a chance that you would re-up in the second Amber, but that doesn't matter. Like we're talking about actually doing something in the main event. If this is going to be viable for OP going forward as like a destination draw for people, like I would recommend it be at least 2 decks. I would prefer to see 3.
I think
if that is actually your main event, the price point for it being 3 decks should actually be okay because that's what you're going there to do. Right? Just like it was before. And the sealed attendance on average was significantly higher by 10 to 20% than Archon always was. So people were okay with traveling to get 3 sealed decks back then. I don't see any reason why that would change now.
And I would still pay the more money for 3. I would, like, personally, if I got it, I would rather have 3 than 2. 2 still, I don't know why, but to me still feels bad. Like it doesn't feel as bad as 1, but it doesn't feel as good as 3.
Right.
Like,
I've liked 2 as survival. That's been okay.
I think the big part of the 2 being bad feels bad is because like almost every set has had a bad house. There's a 43% chance to get any house. So there's a 16% chance to get 2 decks that have that house. Until you get to the 3rd deck, you start having a very small chance that house won't be in one of your decks. It's actually very unlikely to get 3 Brobnar decks. Ewok, that happened to you, that happened to me in Dallas, so it does happen. It's just way less than 2 decks.
I mean,
2 decks, you're going to have a lot of double Brobnars in Worlds Collide.
I gotta say, if they would let me buy a case or a box for a sealed event, if it was 12-pack pick, I would pony up.
I mean, I
don't think that's the normal player that they're
not
pulling.
the target market.
Yeah, $200 entry, no big deal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's the re-up? I missed it. I didn't see that portion.
So for second Amber tournaments are consolation events, and what you're looking at is that they'll be played alongside your Archon Sealed, Alliance Sealed, Alliance Standard, or Archon Standard. Participants in second Amber tournaments are players eliminated from the companion event, allowing them a fun continuance of play. Basically, they're entered after each round of the companion event. They're played simultaneously. The first round...
The same format.
Correct. They are the same format. So whatever you are playing, they will go ahead and play. It does require 2 players were eliminated from the companion event, because you could also just wait and not play in the main event and then join the second Amber.
It's
so
basically
that's something.
The difference is in the classic, you lost 2 games and you're out and you're just playing for some Amber shards and because you liked playing the game. And now after 2 losses, you're out, but you're playing for prizes still.
Yeah, and it says for
that's a difference.
Yeah, for Alliance Sealed, it says players bring their decks from the companion event and are allowed to calibrate. So that's Alliance Sealed. But basically, you're bringing your deck from earlier, and that's what you're using.
Yep.
And then they did, if you actually read the second Amber thing, because on the top level it says the top 2 second Amber players win something. Also, when you read deeper, every time you win a game in second Amber, you get a raffle ticket essentially, and then they're going to draw 8 names too. So even if you don't
maybe
win
they were
many
at the
games,
Kansas City event,
you have a chance to win something. Yeah, like I think that's pretty solid. Like then you still have a reason to try to win a game, and maybe you can win something cool still. So that's nice because you don't have that at the Classic Vault Tour.
Yeah,
I will say I do like the double elimination. I think that is a nice way to be able to handle it. And having been at many Vault Tours where, frankly, that would have eliminated a couple players earlier, running the second Amber alongside it offers options and it streamlines it. I mean, Keyforge Live, that's a long, long day that we were out there. And there are players that just weren't in contention after losing. So I do like the double elimination. That's something I would definitely keep.
Well, yeah, I was going to say the double, it also eliminates what we faced in Kansas City, right? Where somebody does technically make the cut, but doesn't make the cut, you know? So I think that was a nice little, you know, I don't know what you want to call that, if you really want to call that a compromise, but it was like,
there's more to talk about with double elimination because it's got pros and cons of how it's run. So we'll get there.
Yeah,
but I will say, looking at these different events, I hope that they're not just using Keyforge Celebration with, oh, this is how many people signed up for Archon Sealed, and this is how many signed up for Alliance Sealed, in order to go ahead and determine what they want to use. And I say this because honestly, right now, you have WoW that is showing up. And I think that more people will simply play the Alliance Sealed because you're going to get 2 decks of WoW early before January versus 1 for Archon Sealed. And that would be the sole difference. If you want to compare, have 2 decks for both or have the same amount of decks. So I will say that would be my suggestion because you want to compare apples to apples and see what do people want and use that data.
To Alliance Sealed here in a minute.
Ewok, I signed up for both, so I'm getting 3 decks. So
I certainly would put my money where my mouth is, and if they made 2 deck Archon Sealed and 2 deck Alliance Sealed, my money would be over with Archon Sealed.
Fair enough. Let's move into what they did to Archon. It is no longer a confusing triad format.
Triad with
it's no longer Arcaniad. So.
Yeah, it was very confusing. I was trying to follow along and listen to other shows that were trying to explain it to me, and I was still like, it doesn't sound like I'll be playing this anytime soon because it doesn't matter because I don't have 3 top end decks. So, but new Archon,
because you got exhausted trying to understand it.
I was so exhausted.
Oh goodness! But honestly, I think the idea for what was there was fine. But yes, it was a limiting factor versus just single deck.
I get what they were trying to do. It just, again, I agree with Sheep on the fact of like I don't have 3 top end fire decks to bring to an event. So I'm going to bring 1 fire deck and 2 non-fire decks, and
you're going to sit them
and just get roasted for 2 rounds. Cool.
Your fire deck going to sit in the side, being like, you don't get to play that, sir.
Right.
Thanks.
So Archon is now just 1 deck, the way it kind of always has been, I guess. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out what your one fire deck was.
I don't have any fire
God, that's
decks,
the-
unfortunately. I just get to beat people with their own. That's all.
That's true.
Okay. So I do hope they consider expanding the number of formats, but I think for a 2023 tournament season where they have 1 out of every 30 players is continuing and they're trying to get people back or bring new people into the fold, these formats are appropriate. And I hope as if the player base expands, like say we start at 50 player tournaments and somehow by Worlds there's like 500 people at it, then go, hey, we could have a big league tournament and everybody who doesn't want to play in the big league tournament kind of thing. But when what they're saying, like if you have too many different flavors of pie, everybody's going in different directions.
I like pie.
You don't know what to make, right? So like keeping it confined in the near term, probably appropriate. Well, I hope they see a difference. And then there's still the chance that we run Keyforge Live and say we're running survival. And on the side, we're also going to run Triad or this new Archon spider-limbed thing or whatever it was. And Shredder Worlds. Yes.
Shredder World.
Shredder World. Sign me up. Let's go.
I was so terrified that Shredder was going to end up on here. And I was going to be like, no. But it didn't. So we're good.
I was just like, my only hope there with the Archon was I really, really wanted to see survival stay. That is my favorite top competitive format. That's my family's favorite format. It's seemingly
survival
much more approachable.
So long.
Not 2-deck. 2-deck survival literally is a double elimination tournament by default.
Yes,
it's the same thing. So like I was like, once I saw that there was a change, like when right before I clicked on the Archon, I was hoping that was what the change was. I'm also happy with it moving to Archon. I understand everything that she was saying, and I agree that is the move here. I just hope one day we see 2-deck survival come back at the top level, and that might not be this year, sure, but I am hoping one day we do see that come back because I think that was a very high on the favorite list from the community. We literally chose 3-deck survival as the event we ran for live. That's going to be too long for a lot of OP, and we get that. But it could have been 2-deck. So hopefully one day we'll see that again. So if you're listening.
All right, let's move into Alliance Standard. So Alliance has changed significantly. It feels like it changed significantly from what they were originally.
You want a fast version here to this Alliance?
I'm working. Just let me do my thing. All right. So, originally Alliance was pick 3 house pods from any deck, shuffle up and deal. Right. Now it is turned into, and with the dis in formats, we have learned that there is going to be a restricted list. And now you are only able to pool houses from the same set.
Yes.
So I kind of figured we were going to see a banned and restricted list sooner rather than later. I think I said that in our private chat. I kind of knew they were going to somehow find a way to balance it because everyone's going bananas, OTK, OTK, OTK. And I'm like, this is going to lead to library access level restrictions. Mm-hmm. And they've basically said in disinformants, yes, they had already planned. I don't know why they just didn't come out and say that because I knew when Alliance popped up, I'm like, oh, the secondary market's going to go to bananas. And then they're going to say something else, and then everybody's going to be like, oh, man, I just spent $1,000 on this pod that's now worthless that I, can't play.
I don't think anybody bought a pod for $1,000.
I don't think anybody did. I
could be wrong.
I was being very extravagant there. But,
I mean, there is a chance that you could be wrong there, though. Like, people were buying decks in those 6 days.
Yeah. I mean, we heard people are like, oh, I have a United Action deck. Somebody just offered me money for it. I knew it was going to happen, that there was going to be restrictions on it. I couldn't believe that they were going to let just chaos ensue. Because the other part is if they did let chaos ensue, what, do they not know anything about this game? That was my next question, because it's like, yes, is it possible? But also, we might want to let the format shake out. We don't know what the meta looks like. It's very undefined. Yes, OTK is a thing that exists, but it might not be the meta that rises to the top.
But the OTK exists in Archon decks. So, like, what I wonder is if this restricted list comes out and it's so restrictive, does an Archon deck, because even if you have 10 cards on the restricted list, if all of them are in existence in a real Archon deck, they said in the article you can still play the Archon deck.
Yep.
So, like, if they start saying this can't exist in a deck together, and you just happen to have an OTK Archon deck, you can, like, do you show up and just clean house because you play cards that they can't play, and the stuff that counters it easily they also can't play? Like,
so the answer comes, we got to wait and see what's on the restricted list.
yeah.
We do. But I think the immediate items that we're looking at was the lockout, because there's some heavy lockout scenarios, and then there was an OTK. I don't think that list is as long as some individuals want it to go ahead and be. And I think that if we hit key cards, it should be fine. But we have to wait and see.
So I am going to be very interested in how that all shakes up.
I mean,
Trying to
again,
talk Gorlami into bringing me a 5 Merkins deck with Exhumes to play if I have to do Alliance. Heck with this, I'm just playing your cards.
I did see it. It looked pretty great.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, like I said, I think everyone went auto doom and gloom to it, which I can understand. A lot of people did get into this game for not deck building. But I think Z, well, maybe Z hasn't been there. I've been there. I needed to scratch that itch. You know, I needed
played
something.
Fab for 6 months. So.
Right.
So here's my one little piece on it. We went from Keyforge being, here's one unique deck, we're playing it out of the box, to all of a sudden competitive play now has 2 out of the 3 formats being essentially Alliance, where you're creating. So we had a drastic change from 100%, here's your deck, play it, whether that's sealed or Archon, to 2 out of the 3. I think that stat is where there was a lot of concern, because that's a huge shift.
It is.
So had we just gone in with, here's one, we're going to try this out, it's on a less competitive format for your store, wherever you need to be, that's very different from, hey, competitive Keyforge, 2 out of the 3. So I think there's been some rectification. Hopefully we continue to utilize Keyforge celebrations in order to provide feedback and to see what comes about through Alliance.
And it'll give some use to those
one more
Sanctum
format.
Junk. Yep, it'll give some use to some of those junk Sanctum decks y'all have, right? No. Okay.
Yes,
perfect.
you can take the good pods out and then bring the Sanctum part pods to Shredder Alliance.
Shredder Alliance.
There
All
will
right.
be Shredder Alliance in Minneapolis that weekend. It is going to happen. We haven't.
When you don't want to shred one deck, you can shred 3 decks.
We have the addendum ready. I will have a new rules iteration for
Committed
that
to
weekend.
Shredder are you? How committed are you?
Like, we've got to play it, and they've got to see it happen.
Akari versus Pam.
No. Well, that's pretty good, but no. But we could be the first person to Shredder Woe.
Hell yeah. Let's go.
Oh no. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go ahead and Shredder Woe when it is coming out and other people elsewhere cannot get it until January,
They'll be upset.
I will personally
You can send an email to ewalkjr@gmail.com.
You can go ahead and you guys will all bail me out of jail, because I'm going to punch him in the face and I'm going to jail that night.
Word on the street is this has already happened. Word on the street has already happened before. So, I mean,
it
par for the
has.
course.
And it will happen again if you go down that road. I am sorry, but there would be so many individuals in the community.
Since then,
we will go ahead and people. I know you have my back on this, but there will be people literally storming for you.
Just make sure whoever I give the camera to doesn't. It's not like one of those 2 people are not holding it at the time, please.
Man, I think I just peed a little. That was hilarious.
All right, where were we? Was it Sealed
Well, I
Alliance?
need to say the addendum. We have an addendum for Shredder, and it specifically states to play Shredder Alliance, you will draft 3 house pods from 3 different Archons to comprise your Shredder Alliance deck, and then you continue playing Shredder as normal. So you must have 3 different decks representing your deck.
Are you guys going to be shreddering Unchained decks?
What? Oh, no, I would not do that, actually.
No, that's too much for you?
Well,
Not
Unchained is
for
its own thing.
me.
I would consider doing
Drazkor? Are you going,
Drazkor?
Drazkor?
I'm going for
You're
sure.
going? Okay,
Yeah.
are you going to
Yeah.
shredder Unchained decks?
I'm not going to shredder at all.
Oh,
If
you're not.
you are shreddering decks that are not available to the general public as a pre-release, forewarned,
Ewok.
someone's getting a
Every
face punch.
deck I own is unique and not available to the general public.
Ewok, we just had this whole discussion about how you need to respectfully provide.
Can you all make me a promise before you before you all record the fight?
I am putting this in my phone right now. Face punch anyone shreddering decks that are not available to the general
Before you all
public.
record
That
the
is
fight,
not constructive.
can you please just make Drazkor make me this promise, because you're the level-headed one here.
All right, what I got?
Before somebody records this fight, right? Because it's going to happen, because Sheep will be shreddering and Ewok will be punching Sheep in the face.
I know he's going to do this, and then he's going to ride home with me afterwards, and he's going to have a black eye again.
Can you just promise me
You're going to have a
somebody...
broken rib this time, sir.
Can you just promise me somebody yells? I don't care who yells it. I just need to hear World Star in the background as this is happening. Please?
I don't get it.
You would.
What?
Someone in the chat just said we could be shredding cards that haven't been spoiled yet.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure. That's why I'm sending them with a camera so they can take pictures.
Yeah, was it random?
Oh, corner the market with the new print? Like, oh, you don't need that.
Well, you'll get half of the card. It'll just be like half the thing spoiled. We just get a blurry
I mean,
blurry card or half the picture.
It's a new spoiled card. You just won't know what it is yet.
Bring tape so you can just tape them all back together. All right, let's move into Sealed Alliance. So the new Sealed Alliance format kind of stays the same. It didn't really change, did it?
That didn't change at all.
Yeah, it didn't change at all. So you're gonna get 2 decks. You're gonna mash them together to make 1 deck. Shuffle up and play.
I haven't talked about this on air. Lokakar and I did this the other night.
Yep.
I haven't talked about it on air. It was a very small sample group. We did Worlds Collide. We both opened 2 Worlds Collide decks. We both opened 2 Brobnar decks. Mine was a 59 and a 62 SAS deck. And by alliancing them, besides my hair started on fire, I went to a 72 SAS deck. So I saw a huge improvement in my deck.
Yep.
My Brobnars were bad. Like one of my Brobnar houses had a 12 SAS. Right?
That's
real
pretty
bad.
much just Brobnar, though.
Yeah. Okay, so my deck got significantly better. Lokakar, being the crazy guy he has not scanned in his decks.
So you have no idea.
So I have no idea, but I've played enough Keyforge. He equally had low 60s garbage. And his combination, he did it. He had a 57 and a 59 and made a 62. Right? So like stinkers still stink, duds are still duds. This doesn't necessarily fix it. And then
this does not tell us anything. This is just
no, it doesn't. But what it did, the experience we had here is I got to have fun because I built a deck that just like I ate his lunch and then I made him clean up after me. It was bad, right? Like I destroyed him.
In a nutshell a lot of the times.
Yes, but the difference is when he did his build, no matter what he did, even with this new player agency, he couldn't significantly improve his odds. And now, like, he has to sit there and really second guess everything he did because it didn't work out great. And it was not actually a satisfactory experience for him in this one small situation. And there's no guarantee that's probably not going to be the majority of people. Majority of people will probably increase, but like the feel bads feel worse.
And I will say,
just a little rough feeling.
Yeah, looking at Lokakar's post in the AC live chat, so thanks again for following along. He said the decks out of the box were more evenly matched.
Yes, had we not done Alliance, we would have been at least having a game. Right? But with Alliance, there was no game. I put together a Cincy Rex, Exhume, Shenanigans deck, and he did Cincy Rex Golden Spiral too. And he did not. And it was just a pretty brutal beatdown. Even recalibration, there was no fixing because he just had 2 duds. So in this case, the player agency did not deliver.
You cannot extrapolate anything you're doing right now with just one iteration on both sides of the table. Like that is not how anything works.
It is how things work. And I specifically said that is not going to be everybody's situation. And more people are going to be like me, but these situations will happen, right? Like it doesn't happen. Lokakar didn't have the 1 out of 1 million chance where somebody gets a bad draw. Like it's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen more than people think it's going to. And it's actually, and in his case, and that's also not true for everybody. Like it made it feel even worse than just opening 2 bad decks and trying to do your best with them. So
I think what you're telling me is there's a 50% chance I'm going to increase. There's a 50% chance I'm going to be better after I shuffle my 2 decks together.
Well,
no, it's almost guaranteed you go up.
They were both better.
Yeah, and I will say that JML had done a larger population where he grabbed data, and basically it was about an 8-point increase. So I like that data to be able to look at it. If we can increase, great. If you're looking at 8 points, is it really that big of a difference?
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll have it's a difference. But we'll have to see what it is and what the impact is on players who just end up with 2 duds making the dud. But I think an increase is better. I'm actually excited for the Alliance for the Sealed.
The other thing that I still have a strong opinion on here is Sealed was sort of, and probably really it's a lie, that it's friendlier to new players. But Sealed Alliance is not friendlier to new players.
No.
But our new players can go get 1 deck and have fun.
or destroyed.
But they don't know better, right? Because they're new players. Noobs. They don't know what they're doing.
That's the thing. If they really are new, it does not matter which level deck they get. Like, we've all played with new players, and like they have decks that are way better than ours, and they're like, I'm gonna fight your guy off the board, and it's like, witch of the eye.
Yeah, so it will be interesting if there is not many more spoilers before celebrations.
That would be super exciting if it'll be the first time they'd have ever done that, and that would be really, really cool.
That would be really, really cool, and it will also make that half an hour go by real quick.
It'll also make Shredder way more entertaining.
So I think we got a spoiler, guys, that nobody's talking about.
What's that?
So take a look at this article, Dis in Formats, right? Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, great name. And I love the beginning preamble, the flavor of the Dis demons coming out, eating up all of our vile thoughts. But look at this image here. This image on top of the page, that is definitely a Dis demon. Mm-hmm. There is no Dis in Winds of Exchange. And there's one more set that has been relatively fleshed out.
Reminders.
Dis is coming back in the next set.
It's an anomaly!
Or anomaly. It could be. It could be.
Is
from the next set.
Art that we haven't seen?
No, we have not seen this.
I thought he was an art we've seen, but I guess
Dis is coming back in what the heck is it? Grim Reminders. That is my prediction.
I'll go one further. I 100% agree with you. I think Grim Reminders comes back, joins the Undead House, because they hinted that 2 houses were going out. Mm-hmm. So we get new house, we get Dis back, and I'm hoping we see this card as an anomaly in set 6.
Yeah, we might. Yeah.
Whatever the heck it may be.
It looks cool.
It does look very cool.
I don't know why it looks so familiar though. It looks like
kind of like EE.
From your nightmares.
It is similar art to EE on the
I was going to
fringes.
say Tesmol, but maybe not.
Okay, it was because it was shown previously on DeviantArt.com at some point. But it also says Tesmol. Is that?
It is Tesmol. Oh my god.
What?
We suck.
This is what Google image search is for, guys.
I thought it was Tesmol, but
Ignore the last 5 minutes of the cast.
Well, but so as you're going down to go ahead with Draz there, it's fail. I mean, the next
welcome
picture,
to AC Draz. We all have that moment.
Yeah, it is Tesmol. Look at that.
We have Safe House that's there, and then we can go ahead and talk because at the very bottom, after the punk, you have Heart of the Forest. So it would have just made my day to see it come back. But that is not it. I think this is an acknowledgement of all their failures here. Heart of the Forest.
Are you saying Dis has a whole list of failures?
Wait, so what you're saying is that
and Brobnar's there too. So that's
formats,
right?
Yeah, and that was our preview card.
Yeah. Most definitely. No.
So that was a failure, giving us a preview card. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that one's all right.
No, they're saying we're a failure by giving us that preview card.
No,
I'm saying Equilibrium. No, I think these are just images.
Well, but if you actually remember that preview card, is this the token or is this
That's the token? That's the token.
Okay.
Berserker.
Yeah, I was just playing off that it was, Brobnar has been a failure in Worlds Collide.
Right,
so, these are all their failures.
Back on task.
That's some
all right,
deep
back on
reading into
task.
the pictures.
Yeah, pictures.
Well, we'll just strike through this comment here. Done.
All right, so let's talk about the Keyforge celebration itself. Wookie mentioned this in the article earlier. All 4 of them have the same format structure as far as like the way the tournament's executed, and that is double elimination, which basically means 2 games are out, go play Second Amber, support your buddies, whatever you want to do, go get a drink. Double elimination has 2 ways it can be executed, and one way is super fast, and one way is super slow. We have no clue which method they are going to use. But if anyone's listening, I highly recommend they use the fast one. Double elimination can be run in a way where you're paired up as Swiss, and every single player is kind of paired up based on the Swiss method algorithm every round, and everyone is playing all the time. And that is going to be way shorter, time-wise, as far as the event goes, than traditional double elimination. In traditional double elimination, you have a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket, which tears off a whole bunch because people will start waiting for other losers to catch up to them as they drop down.
Losers isn't a friendly word.
I know. I chose the word that I wanted to say.
Non-winners?
People who have lost their first game out of 2 elimination.
Which means they lost and are then losers. But anyway, like that bracket keeps tiering and tiering and tiering. We very recently ran the Reaper of Archons or whatever weird name I called it. And I ran it as traditional double elimination because I did a poll and that's what people wanted to play. It's like, fine, we'll do it. And then it reminded me why I stopped doing that. Like very, very early in the event. Because at some point, like someone is just
guy
waiting.
Or the XO guy or girl.
Yes,
or
the person. Well, in this event structure where top 8 makes the cut, that person's actually done playing. Like you will have a person that is done playing in that style of event if if top cut is 8 and that makes top cut really, really early in the event. They're actually done. They made day 2. They can go do whatever they want. Literally halfway through the event ending. Unless they do it the other way. So I highly encourage they do it the Swiss method. Because honestly, if you look at the time frame that they're giving us, Friday says 4 to 11 p.m. That is 7 hours. There is literally not enough time to execute double elimination in its normal form inside a 7-hour window with 50 players. Especially when it's 45-minute rounds because it's sealed. You'll have breaks somewhere in there. and they're giving us 30 minutes to pod build. I'm never going to get used to saying that one. So, like, they literally don't have the amount of time because I believe the hall actually closes at that time, 11.
I mean,
There's like
CTP owns it. It
Yeah, it's
stays open
there.
as late as
Yeah.
we want.
that's
As late as
fine.
he wants.
But I
But
will
do
tell
you actually want the player base staying up till
No.
1 a.m. to play
No,
the
'cause,
actual
we
Archon
got-
event the next day?
well, but
we
it's
got-
not.
Drazcore experience to do, so we got to get out of there.
We do have Drazcore experience, but you also have your judges who are there, and so that pushes them late and then early the next morning. I will also argue that the games are going to typically go longer if it is not spoiled, which leads to our next question and
It
kind of
is
statement.
spoiled. Like, remember AOA? Like, I don't know how those games went 45 minutes because, like, there's no amber control. So you just forge 18 amber and the game
Heart
is
of the
freaking
Forest.
over.
But
Or Grunt Buggy versus Grunt Buggy.
But
Sure.
they go longer by key cost increase, and they go longer because people don't know the card. So when you slow down and you're reading every card, those games are going to go longer, which is why I'm saying even early DT when it was, you're playing, it goes longer because you don't know the card. So I would assume that WoW is going to be the same here. And with that double elimination, just be aware you're going to be playing late. It's exciting, but you're going to be playing late.
Just own it, Ewok. Every round that you're playing in is going 45 minutes.
I'm fairly certain if you look, but Josh went ahead and reached out. Joker went ahead and said, we had one of the fastest games. I was consistently not at the end. I know that in past times you guys have gone ahead and seen that, but I will do whatever you would like.
A touchpad on a laptop when he plays on his computer or something.
Yeah, I have a laptop. That's what I have access to. So I don't have a gaming monitor and separate mouse and other items. We do the best we can, but in real life play, it's a little bit different game. So we'll have some fun. We're gonna play some WoW. I know we're gonna play and have some fun, and I'm excited to see WoW there. What about will the set be spoiled prior? Who in the cast wants to go ahead and have all the cards spoiled beforehand?
I don't want a single new spoiler until we play the event. Like,
Me.
I would love that.
I want to see
Okay.
every card before the event.
But
You're not
are
playing in the event.
you going though?
Again, it depends on a lot of things, so nobody knows right now.
I know. But if you would, so if you could go, you'd want to see Sheep, Draz. Where are you guys at?
No, I don't want to see more spoilers beforehand. That'd be my preference.
And Sheep?
Now,
I think I'm in the same boat. I think right now at this set, I love the spoilers that we've had. They've really helped excite me, but I think I'm good. I want to just go in and see some new cards for the first time and go, "Oh, that one got me. That was awesome."
Yeah. Though honestly, like, we're saying this because we're all going, right? I want the excitement for the release to keep going. So if a few more spoilers keeps up the excitement and gets people excited about stuff coming and helps sales, then I'd be for that. But just for me personally, yeah, I prefer not to.
The only thing that I would say is if it's not spoiled, there is a group of people out there that do actively play this game that would have some level of competitive advantage. But
Fair enough.
I'm just saying that because this is our cast. We should address these issues. That is a real thing for some people, right? Like, there is a non-zero number group of people that know every card in the set right now that do play our game.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So just to make sure it's said.
Yeah. Whatever.
Even knowing that, again, I don't win anyway. So I would rather play blind from go and be surprised every time someone plays a card. That is an experience I have never gotten from any card game I've ever played. I've always known every card in the set I'm playing in any game I've played by memory. So it would be kind of cool to see that.
And I am excited to see what coverage is going to be for this event. I know, Wookie, you had talked about being able to send some vlog items along so that we can record. But I'm curious what Ghost Galaxy is going to have there.
they said PTR's coming.
Okay.
Nice.
To do it.
So, I mean, this is exciting to be able to see, and hopefully people will be able to follow from home. That was something that with Vault Tours from long ago, you could almost live vicariously through someone who is at a Vault Tour and you couldn't be there, kind of cheering them on, looking at it, watching it. So hopefully this event will do the same.
All right, is that going to do it for us this week? I think that kind of covers everything, no?
We didn't even cover hardly at all the event.
Okay.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So after Z totally rags on us for not getting excited enough for celebrations, we try to skip it. Like, celebrations is a thing. It's selling out. Like, we're going.
Oh, we didn't talk about the Unchained thing.
Unchained.
Like, that's super fun.
So like the on-chained duels, which they're calling it, which you're going to get an on-chain deck, which I know you didn't say there was a lot of people talking about Wolbein earlier. There were, and most of them we're talking about were kind of salty again about that because they're like, I just paid a bunch of money to this game found, and now whoever shows up to this gets it before me. And they were a little salty about that in a few places.
My response to that was we
get
don't
to
know
go
when
and
the game
name
is being
boo-boo.
shipped. Like, do we know
that's what
that
I
Game
say.
Town's not being shipped?
That's what I say. If they can make it for this, they can make it for the thing. That is my opinion too. But yes, we got on-chained duels, which is going to be really cool. You get an on-chain deck, and then you're going to wear like a badge or a pin or something. And if people see you wearing that, they can challenge you in your on-chain deck. You play a game, and then you go and report it to the coordinator for that. And if you lose twice with your on-chain deck, they will give you the option to buy a new one and go back into the field. And then there's going to be prizes for whoever has it. So I wonder how many people are going to be tanking games just to buy more on-chain decks.
They can come to me because I want to be the Unchained champion.
Well, and that's what's
who's to say they're not just going to be selling them.
Well, again, these are
maybe.
options, but the top 3 Unchained decks will receive prizes. So hopefully, that's something cool. And it's something fun to be able to go around with. I remember other game conventions. Gen Con has done that where you have a badge and you can go ahead and basically approach someone.
Whatever game is out is new. So I like that. I really think they would have way more success with Alliance if they'd used that approach for Alliance.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I'm super excited about the Unchained event, though. Like, I want to win that more than I want to win anything else there. So if you have a really, really bad Unchained deck, come find me. I want to play you.
Or if you want a really fast loss, I'll give it to you. Because I want to beat Z in something. So give the wins to me, not to Z.
Oh, goodness.
And you got higher than me in Collinsville.
Okay, but you're number 1 on the leaderboard, and I'm tied for 10th with a person who quit before Coda was even done.
All right, children, we're going to put you to bed now.
I mean, no one's ever going to be number 1 longer than me.
Yay!
Thank you, COVID. Silver linings. I don't know, like, what's got you excited? The most excited, Draz? We haven't talked that much about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm real excited about. Again, seeing people, I'm excited about playing Winds of Exchange. I'm excited to meet the Ghost Galaxy staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Christian Peterson, the guy who was like, "Hey, like I'm gonna go save this game," and I think just shake his hand, chat with him, and be like, "Come on our cast," all that.
Come on our cast. How about you, JR? Oh,
yeah.
I think I'm very excited to meet Janice.
Janice?
It's Janet.
See, no, I already messed it up.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Janet.
Janet's the secretary.
Janet.
She's not a secretary. She's an accountant.
Oh, I'm sorry, accountant.
The lady's position.
Administrative assistant.
It'll be.
That's what I was looking for. Administrative assistant. Thank you, Draz.
Honestly, Draz, I think you hit it in the head. Communication. I can see building relationships through this game, whether it's with other players, whether it's with GG staff, it's a great time. I'm excited to be able to go up for Drazcore Experience. I'm excited to be able to play WoW. I'm honestly just excited that it's close enough and that I have the funds to be able to go. So if you can try and make it a trip, it's gonna be a blast. So
I'm
thank
actually
you, GG,
really
for putting it
excited
on.
for whoever is the what do we call it? Administrative assistant at Ghost Galaxies is now and forever just gonna be called Janet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my name's Steve. Whatever you say, Janet.
Janet. So I'm actually way more excited now after how well the the article, the response article is written, I'm actually
Yes.
excited for the keynote.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, at the event. They
I
have
was not excited for
publicized.
the keynote. Now
Yeah.
I am.
So
Yeah.
you have your keynote that's there. You have Sealed Alliance Archon. You have Second Amber. You have previews for the new set. I think the other item that hasn't been talked about, casual play, that's there. But you have Nightmare mode for Keyforge Adventure. So they are trying to be able to target anyone from competitive to casual. So I do think that them putting together an event before the end of the year is phenomenal. I'm curious to see what that presentation will offer. And I'm curious to see what some of those prizes are for each of the different events that are happening.
I actually had not read this Kirakin Invictus thing, but every time it's beat, it's going up by 10 hit points.
Yep.
And basically the last people to beat it
Are your
your winners. Like this. Who do we got? Somebody game this out. What's our plan?
But it's a group of 3 players. So you're going to have a group of 3, and you're going to have the deck, and you're looking at being able to beat it. So there's definitely some thoughts that have already gone into it. And having access to Nightmare mode.
Rose did very well against the Keyraken.
Mm-hmm.
Mekaboo is a very strong card against the Keyraken.
It can raise the tide, though.
It can. It
But
doesn't
it doesn't.
It doesn't do it nearly as often as it needs to. And when you get both of them out, and all 3 players are gaining 2 Ember a turn because of the turn changed.
I just need to be the last person to play it. Like, I have 3 decks that I can play all 3 of and beat any number of life.
Who's playing the Keyraken? Is it going to be Jeremy?
What? It's auto. It doesn't need a.
Yeah, it's auto.
I know it's auto, but like they're not going to have a.
We have heard they are getting judges that are not. Well, obviously they can't all be GG staff, as there's 5 of them. But it sounds like they are looking, or they're willing to take on judges that are not either GG or Game Center staff. So who knows who's running this? It could be the plate testers. It could be, who knows, right? It could be anything.
And remember, this is Nightmare scenario, so that it is harder than what we faced, Wookiee, when we just ran it through.
No,
but
I know.
Nightmare is out there, and you know it.
Maybe they'll hire the local poker dealers to run it.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. I think that's it, right? We got everything?
Yeah.
We got everything.
I mean,
2 hours.
We've been talking a little bit.
So
no, we haven't, but we've got enough.
Yeah, we got lots. We got lots.
Oh, watch everybody who's hearing this. If you don't listen to HFSFFS, catch that one because they have got Michael Hurley and Christian Peterson on together, and that should drop within a few days of this.
Yeah, tomorrow.
They said they're dropping on the 14th.
Yep, that's tomorrow.
So if you're not normally
be out
from Future Self listener, they've got one that's definitely worth catching in.
We think.
All right, that's going to do it for us this week, and we'll see y'all next week.
See you at the
or a
celebration.
Keyforge celebration. Woohoo!
Which next
Let's
week
go.
will be before Keyforge celebration. But
Yeah, we got a month.
yeah.